African cocktail is a mixture of the best African values you can even think of. And in the 78th episode of the show, December 2013 to December 2014, it's 1 year since Africa's most celebrated son, the one and only Nelson Mandela, moved to the world beyond, but his legacy of peace, determination, love, unity still lives on. But has the world, and particularly Africa, learned from his stunning legacy? What has the world been doing to pay tribute to Mandela in terms of making it a better place? How ready are we to emulate his example, if at all, or at least just to prove we love and still love the legend? In the first anniversary editorial, Ernest Kanjo paints a post-Mandela environment, which to him is an unfortunate thing, not too good for the world progress. That will be right ahead in this edition of African Cocktail.
One year gone since he departed. How has South Africa been coping without the man whose life was a turning point in world politics? What has changed in that country, and how much has Mandela inspired South Africans ready to get into Mandela's shoes? Most important, how did the country commemorate the first anniversary of Madiba's demise? Solomon Atah looks at all of these in this episode of the show. Just right ahead.
Mandela, in the past tense, post-Mandela South Africa and related issues. African Cocktail has brought on board two of the countries or the continent's illustrious daughters, and from our mini studio here at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Johannesburg, we shall be hosting actress and channel Weather Solange, who is also from Angola, and businesswoman, speaker Sipokali Simala. They are our main guests in today's special episode of the show. And also in this episode of African Cocktail, we shall be listening to sociologist and expert in South African politics, Dr. Peter Karim Cisse of the Colombo State Community College, United States of America. Then we shall also be listening to Tabot Sebastien, a young Cameroonian observer living here in the United States. And of course, the CEO of Africa Radio, Nana Ampem. They shall be talking Mandela in this episode of African Cocktail. Meantime, our regular slots, the Belgium Report with Titus Banyo, and of course, Ifana Kualaras, the Central African Report, will be yours in this episode of the show. Meantime, we are two of us hosting African Cocktail these days. Solomon Atah in Johannesburg, South Africa, and of course, Ernest Kanjo in Columbus, Ohio, asking you to sit back, relax, and of course, enjoy every bit of what we shall be presenting to you in this very special Mandela episode of African Cocktail. 614-987-5097 are the numbers to dial to get in touch with us if you want your voice heard in this special episode of the show. You can just tell us how Mandela has inspired you 1 year after his death.
Or do you think that 1 year after Mandela is gone, Africa has changed? That is the running question. 61497-5097 are the numbers to dial to get in touch with us, like I said. But then we usually begin the show by thanking God. And if this one is happening today, it is thanks to Him. So wherever you are listening to us at this moment, bow down your heads. Let's say thank you, God. And we are going to do that with South African Koleka. She is a gospel artist. Let's go. Father, we thank you for this day. Lord, we thank you for the man, Mandela, who lived to make God proud. Father, we thank you that we are alive today to celebrate him and his legacy. Father, we thank you for this show and everybody who is listening. And we pray that, Lord, whatever thing will be said on African Cocktail today will go a long way to foster development on our beautiful African continent and, of course, bring peace, the peace which Mandela himself propounded when he was alive. Father, we thank you for everything. Take control of this show, inspire us, so that at the end of the day, Lord, we will say that our Father did it again. Thank you so much once again, Father, as we soak this blood or this show in the precious blood of your Son, Jesus Christ. And through him we have prayed. Amen. Beautiful Zulu-styled gospel music there coming to you from South Africa, and her name is Koleka. She is a South African gospel artist. That one is titled Likon in Hemba, and we're doing a very special Mandela show today on African Cocktail, 1 year after the demise of this legend who was a turning point in African and world politics. And so in this episode of African Cocktail, we shall be listening to people talk about Mandela. We shall find out how South Africans have been living without this man. All of that in this episode of African Cocktail. Lots and lots of reports, commentaries, interviews and analysis. In the 78th episode of African Cocktail that is reaching you from Columbus, Ohio, 26 minutes to 11, and time for us to begin the show. We are beginning with this beautiful piece that is paying tribute to Mandela, and the artist is called Harrison, and that one is titled Mandela Simply. Okay, let's go.
Mandela, we love you and we wish not to let you go. Mandela, we love you and we wish not to let you go. Mandela, 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 forever in our heart, oh, forever in our heart. Now Sound City, I've been there watch from my friend. Enter Palo, change them to CNN, You see, Mandela don't go. Everybody for the world don't slow. Oi, what I run from my eyes, oh. No, we say I don't see him before, or hear him before, but in story when I hear.
Okay, in a couple of seconds, ladies and gentlemen, we shall kick off with hostilities here on this special Mandela show, and we hear our resource person number 2, Suleiman Koyate, who is in charge of political affairs and international relations, is on standby. He will be getting to us in a short instance so that we start talking about Mandela 1 year after.
We love you and we wish not to let you go. Mandela, we love you and we wish not to let you go. Mandela, 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 forever in our heart, oh, forever in our heart. I want you to know that we love you and forever we will respect you. Now I've got this picture right in my heart. Oh my Lord, oh hey. Everybody put your hands up for the one and only Mandela. Stand in respect to the fire of Africa. Oh no 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 no. Mandela, no 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 no. We love you and we wish not to let you go. Mandela, we love you and we wish not to let you go.
Okay, we love you, Mandela, and you're definitely going to stay in our hearts. African Cocktail coming to you from Africa Radio, a special edition devoted to Mandela first year or first anniversary of his departure. And we hear our man, resource person number 2, Suleiman Koyate, is already on the line. Suleiman, bonjour.
Bonjour mon frère Ernest.
Comment ça va, Suleiman?
Oui, ça va très bien.
Suleiman, ça fait un an que le légende Nelson Mandela est parti et même si ça n'a pas fait la une de l'actualité sur les médias occidentaux, en Afrique du Sud, on a quand même constaté que les citoyens de ce pays ont commémoré le premier anniversaire de la mort de cet grand homme. Un an après, Suleiman, est-ce qu'on peut dire que Nelson Mandela créait toujours un impact sur la vie africaine?
Oui, bon, tu sais, Ernest, comme vous l'avez dit en introduction, c'est pas seulement d'ailleurs l'Afrique du Sud qui a célébré, je connais beaucoup de médias africains qui ont célébré, donc c'est pas seulement l'Afrique du Sud. Bon, pour ce qui concerne l'impact de Nelson Mandela, vous savez, Mahatma Gandhi est décédé il y a combien de décennies de cela, mais toujours il impacte sur la vie des gens tous les jours. La même chose pour beaucoup d'autres gens qui se sont battus pour le monde. Pour Nelson Mandela, il va toujours impacter la vie des gens. Hein. C'est pas seulement un an qu'on va l'oublier. Des décennies après ça, peut-être même des millénaires après ça, les gens vont parler toujours de Nelson Mandela. Oui. Donc la leçon qu'il a donnée à l'humanité est une leçon immortelle, mon frère.
Est-ce qu'on peut dire, Suleiman, que Nelson Mandela nous manque?
I'm sorry?
Est-ce qu'on peut dire que Nelson Mandela nous manque? Are we missing Mandela?
Ah oui, définitivement, il va toujours nous manquer parce que quand quelqu'un part, c'était un symbole vivant quand même. Hein. Mandela, à sa mort, il avait déjà fini son travail. Je peux dire comme ça, il avait déjà fini son travail. Mais en tant que symbole physique, il va toujours nous manquer. Parce qu'à chaque fois qu'on voyait Nelson Mandela, donc ça inspirait beaucoup de gens. Donc son absence physique seulement, ça va toujours nous manquer. Bien que son travail et ses leçons restent éternelles, son départ va toujours manquer non seulement aux Africains, mais à tous ceux qui se battent pour un monde égal.
L'année passée, dans cette même émission, Suleiman, on a parlé des leçons que les leaders africains devaient apprendre de cet homme très respecté par le monde entier. L'une de ces leçons, c'était de ne pas s'en tenir au pouvoir, comme c'est le cas avec pas mal de dictateurs en Afrique. quelques mois après, on a vu l'ex-président du Burkina Faso, Blaise Compaoré, en train de manipuler la constitution pour rester au pouvoir. Est-ce qu'on peut dire que ce que Blaise Compaoré voulait faire, c'était vraiment un manque de respect pour Mandela?
Oui, effectivement, je peux appeler ça comme ça. Hein. C'est vraiment un manque d'intérêt, un manque de respect pour non seulement Mandela, mais pour tous les gens qui veulent un monde démocratique. Donc, c'est pas seulement pour Nelson Mandela. Mais comme on a eu à le dire l'année dernière, beaucoup de dirigeants africains, ils n'apprennent pas parce que, comme on le dit, les habitudes ont l'habitude. Donc, toujours, il y en a qui essaient de se camponner au pouvoir. Le cas de Burkina est un exemple frappant. Mais ce que je peux vous dire, les leçons que Nelson Mandela a données, c'est au monde, c'est aux populations aussi de se servir de ça pour que les présidents ou les dirigeants qui n'arrivent pas à suivre l'exemple de Nelson Mandela, pour que la population essaie de se mettre en œuvre, pour que les gens, là, on les oblige à pousser dehors, comme on a eu à faire avec Blaise Compaoré.
Et dès que Mandela meurt, on a vu le monde mobilisé pour lui dire au revoir. C'était presque tous les chefs d'État qui comptent dans la diplomatie mondiale, qui sortent comme ça pour honorer cet homme. Et nous avons pensé que cette geste était une signe de l'unité qui pouvait faire avancer le monde seulement. Quelques semaines ou mois après, on voit comment ISIS, par exemple, émerge. On voit comment Boko Haram accélérait ses activités violentes. Bref, l'insécurité trop dérangeante. Quel est votre commentaire sur ça?
Bon, vous savez, le monde va être mieux, mais le monde ne va jamais être parfait. Il va toujours avoir des groupuscules, il va toujours avoir des dissidences, il va toujours avoir des petits groupes qui vont toujours essayer de créer la terreur à travers le monde. Donc c'est ça. Mais la bonne chose est que dans le monde entier, plus précisément en Afrique, la démocratie gagne du terrain. C'est ça le plus important. La démocratie gagne du terrain en Afrique, et puis dans peu de temps, peut-être dans 10 ans, je crois que les dictateurs qui sont actuellement ici, qui sont actuellement au pouvoir, si la population n'arrive pas à les chasser, mais si ils partent d'un départ naturel, par exemple, comme la mort, je sais que la dictature ne va plus continuer à s'installer en Afrique. Donc c'est ça le plus important. Pour ce qui concerne Boko Haram et quelques groupes qui sèment la terreur, ça va toujours exister, mais ils ne vont jamais dominer le monde libre, ils ne vont jamais dominer le monde démocratique, ils ne vont jamais dominer le monde du bien, parce que c'est le monde du mal. Le mal ne va jamais dominer le bien dans le monde.
Seulement, avant que j'entre en studio ce matin, quelqu'un m'appelle, ils me disent que des statues de Mandela construites dans chaque pays peut aider à rappeler toute l'Afrique qu'on doit avoir beaucoup d'autres Mandela dans le continent. Qu'en pensez-vous à cela?
Ça c'est vrai, ça c'est une vérité, c'est ce que j'ai dit tout à l'heure par rapport à la disparition de sa personne physique, parce que quand il était vivant, à ces derniers jours, il avait déjà fini son travail, son œuvre était accomplie. Mais chaque fois qu'on le voyait, les gens s'inspiraient de ça. Donc c'est la même chose pour sa statue. Chaque fois qu'on voit la photo de Nelson Mandela quelque part, ou bien la statue de Nelson Mandela quelque part, ça peut inspirer les citoyens, ça peut inspirer les dirigeants. Donc ça c'est une vérité. Je suis entièrement d'accord avec la personne qui a dit ça.
Suleiman, merci beaucoup d'avoir été avec nous ce matin.
Merci et bonne journée à tout le monde.
Okay, his name is Suleiman Kouyaté, resource person number 2 in charge of political affairs and international relations, giving his own views on post-Mandela Africa. Okay, we hope to have Suleiman some other time. This is African Cocktail Special Edition devoted to Nelson Mandela. Let's have some music, then we see where to go next.
Change am to CNN, You see, Mandela don't go. Everybody for the world don't slow. Oi, what I run from my eyes, no be say I don't see him before or hear him before, but him story when I hear, they scatter my brain, The true father of Africa, A freedom fighter, justice you stood for. In your eyes I can see the legacy. I hope say the leaders where they go follow it. Aye. Now what are they run from my eyes? I don't know what I go yard again. No. Oh, Mandela. Everybody sings Mandela. We love you and we wish not to let you go. Mandela. We love you and we wish not to let you go.
And still, in this edition of African Cocktail, we shall be listening to reflections on Nelson Mandela through poetry and, of course, some wise words. Our resource person number one, Kenneth Ngamne, has also been thinking of his own first anniversary gift to Africa as far as Mandela is concerned. And he has something very interesting for us, which we're going to be listening to in this episode of African Cocktail. We shall also be listening to CEO Nana Ampem and his views on post-African or post-Mandela Africa. African Cocktail is coming to you from Africa. Let's listen to some music, then we'll be right back.
And we wish not to let you go. Mandela, 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 Mandela.
Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela. How na yo sonaliye. Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela. How na yo sonaliye. 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 Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela. Ageko fananaye. Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela. Ageko fananaye. Ageko fananaye. Ageko fananaye. Ageko fananaye. Ageko fananaye. Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela. There is no one like you. Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela. There is no one like you. 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 Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela. Da es niemand was Jay. Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela. Da es niemand was Jay. 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 We love you, Mandela, Mandela, Mandela. We love you, Mandela, Mandela, Mandela. We love you, Mandela, Mandela, Mandela. We love you, Mandela, 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 Mandela. There is no one like you.
Welcome back to all our listeners on African Cocktail to Johannesburg, where we're sitting at the Crown Plaza in Rosebank. Ernest is the 1 year on here today, but first, in our first anniversary editorial, Ernest Kanjo paints the post-Mandela
environment in which an unfortunate thing, not so good, but for work progress, what will be the right ahead in this position of African culture?
Inasmuch as it may be difficult to accept the demise of the loved one, the death of heroes quickly become a non-event after it has happened. It is literally like it never happened. And to say they are still alive, one would not be entirely wrong. The reason is simple. The indelible impact heroes create keeps them living forever. That Indira Gandhi is still vividly remembered is not strange. His life had been worthy enough for memories about him to stay on after he was long gone. That Maria Theresa is still adored is just normal. Her selfless stance had touched souls to the extent that she would not be easily forgotten long after her demise. The royal Lady Diana pulled her own weight and left the mark behind. She is still fresh in our minds. This could even be narrowed down to countries and their heroes. 28 years after he quit the stage, Cameroon still remembers the literary mind Bernard Fondon as though he only passed on yesterday. So too does Nigeria continues to hail the legendary Chinua Achebe. And if Congo or Congolese go to bed each day with Patrice Lumumba on their minds, Burkinabés take pleasure and pride in mentioning Thomas Sankara as having been one of theirs. Even departed music and film heroes and heroines have had their own share of the shaking and moving of the world. It is the high-life Baobab, Prince Nikombarga, or the king of Afro-jazz Fela Ransome Kuti, or is it Nollywood's comic hero Sam Loko Ife? Now, other sons of the continent were only born to kick the ball, but they kicked it so well, and so well to the extent that long after their departure, they can still be visualized kicking the ball. Nigeria's Samuel Okwaraji and Rashidi Yekini, Zambia's David Chabala, Cameroon's Mbapelepe, Theophile Abega, and Mark Vivian Fouy. The list is inexhaustible. And just like these heroes and more, Nelson Mandela, upon his demise, had printed his name not only in the continent's golden books, but that of the world at large. His passing on had pulled the world together, and the historic Tuesday, December the 10th, 2013 memorial service at the FNB Stadium in Johannesburg, where a cream of those who matter on the globe had converged, has remained a very strong symbol of unity. This commentator would vividly remember how observers had sincerely hoped that this was going to be a kick-off point for reflection on how boundaries could be broken, rivers bridged, gaps filled, hearts and doors opened to embrace, and way forwards charted in a bid to make the world a better place. No one had appeared to be indifferent about the sazy life of an entirely successful man like Mandela. And even in their different religious, cultural, political, and social backgrounds, they had all agreed that Mandela, in his uniqueness, inspired everyone. Show me who was not moved, and I would show you just who wanted it to be a joke. At least for the sake of the one whose charismatic or charisma coaxed everyone and spared nobody, the lesson of making the world a better place had to be learned. In fact, learning the Madiba example became everyone's hallmark. You needed to be too insensitive to sweet reality to refuse to adhere to the Mandela charm. And so the fervent hope was that lessons had to be learned. But just like flesh-controlled humans who would hastily pronounce New Year resolutions and quickly lose focus on them, the Mandela lessons evaporated even before the departed hero was sufficiently laid to rest. Else, what explains the rapid growth of insecurity that has brought the world to its feet just months after Mandela bidded farewell? ISIS could be far off. What about Boko Haram in Mandela's own backyard in Africa? The former prison-come president had not spilled blood during his years of fighting to liberate his people. Mandela had not abducted school teenagers, neither had he massacred schoolboys. He had not demonstrated religious intolerance, neither had he planted fear and terror in people. He had only shown love, clamored for peace, and called for dialogue and understanding. A lesson that is so easy to learn, yet so difficult to learn. Perhaps one of the points that which post-Mandela conversations evolved around when the hero passed on was power in Africa. Mandela had demystified the concept by winning the presidency, refusing to run again after his mandate was over, and never attempting to bounce back. So charismatic but strange that was, sons and daughters of Africa expected leaders of the continent to receive this message, even if they ignored other ones. It was going to be a hard pill to swallow, but for the sake of the very Mandela they all came out to describe as their role model, such spectacular moves were expected to start happening. And so, what if a positive opposition holder, not only a president whose advancement in age is causing a toll on his job, got up one morning and decided he was stepping down just to rest? The argument would definitely be that this could result to unrest, but it has worked elsewhere. Oh, what if a leader declared their intention of running again at the end of their mandate, than attempting to twist the constitution to suit his doing so? Well, the argument could be that they have a mastery of the country and could run it better. Well, elsewhere leaders have had to ignore succeeding mandates, and it has worked out. If for the sake of political charisma, Blaise Compaoré, who with Mandela, Thabo Mbeki, Kofi Annan and others had severally played the honorable role of peace mediation or mediators in countless conflicts, had ignored intentions of running for another term of office after the one he no longer has, he would have at least been recognized for that, and the ugly memories of Thomas Sankara episode would be taken with less salt. But with a split of an instant and an unreasonable damn the consequences move, he faltered, and what happened happened. Had Compaoré respected the Mandela legacy enough, this wouldn't even have happened less than a year after the hero was hailed by the entire world at his bye-bye come-together. Lack of charisma. Over in Nigeria, the situation has not been different. Soon after Mandela went, an unfortunate stream of events almost drained the country's #1 executive, Goodluck Jonathan, of all his luck. With the big blow of the missing teenage girls and the successive killings of civilians, which has plunged the country into a hot pot of insecurity, charisma would have necessitated the president not to want to run for office anymore. But from all indications, Goodluck still seems to want to try his luck another time. A reasonable leader would have opted for resignation even if they were not the sole cause of the problem. Yet, Mandela was hailed for ignoring a next mandate. Africa needs to do better to honor Mandela. This is African Cocktail, coming to you from Africa Radio.
And that one is titled Emotional Freedom Song, coming to you from Africa Radio on this special day, a day we are celebrating Mandela's first anniversary. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. We'll be right back. December 2013, December 2014, 1 year after Mandela left us, but then his legacy lives on: peace, love, unity, and of course determination. What a man, what a man, Madiba. We're honoring him in this episode of African Cocktail. We hear our guests are already in our mini studio in Johannesburg, South Africa. But before we receive Solange and Sifo Kazi, let's find out how South Africa has been coping 1 year on. How South Africa has been coping without this legend, and just how did this country commemorate the first anniversary of Mandela's demise. Solomon Atah, could you just paint a picture for us?
Welcome back to Johannesburg, here at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Rosebank. It's a year now. It's been about the same time last year, the nation was gripped in mourning when the passing of a world icon was announced. Nelson Mandela, the apartheid struggle icon, from prison to power, Nobel Peace Prize laureate, man of the people par excellence, president and leader of the oldest political movement in Africa, the African National Congress, the one man on whose shoulders the hopes and dreams of the country once laid. Today, 1 year on, this country and the world remembers Mandela in song, dance, and various activities. Exactly a year and 5 days, Ernest, the man who once congregated many heads of states and governments in South Africa during the state funeral last year, has been remembered across the length and breadth of this beautiful land. As South Africa and the world commemorate the first anniversary of Mandela's passing, South Africans are just beginning to come to terms with referring to Mandela in the past tense, 1 year on. From all the corners of the country, various activities have been organized and are still being organized to mark the 1 year since Nelson Mandela passing into the world of our ancestors. Here, Ernest, are just some of the activities that or have already taken place in the week leading up to, from the 4th of December up to now and continuing. A tribute exhibition took place at the Nelson Mandela Foundation on the 4th of December, displaying various Nelson Mandela memorabilia, and this was presided over by the Deputy President, Cyril Ramaphosa. Official commemoration took place on the 5th of December in commemoration of the first anniversary of Nelson Mandela's passing, led by the presidency and supported by the Department of Social Development. The official written at the Mandela Church in the Union Buildings was by veterans, friends of Mandela, which started about 8:30 in the morning of December the 5th, and was attended by Mrs. Gracia Marshall, Mrs. Winnie Madikizela Mandela, Mr. Almed Cathedral, Mr. Andrew Mlangeni, Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu, Reverend J.C. Jackson, and cabinet ministers. The official event was presided again, by the Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa. The wreath-laying ceremony was later opened up to the public throughout the day. And as we look into the future and with new hope and strengthened spirit, the hope is that all of us will make our own individual attempts to do our best to keep the flame of selfless service to others alive in honor of a great man that lived and inspired the world. This was the central theme of several events around the country, and citizens are challenged to follow Madiba's footsteps as we seek to emulate his exemplary life.
Solomon, let me find out something from you. Do we have statues of Mandela spread all over the country in his honor?
Indeed, and it might not necessarily all over the country, but at key points all over the country we have, say for example, there was one that was unveiled just a day after he was buried last year at the Union Building. That is where the laying of the wreath took place on the 5th of December. There are several others, including at the Nobel Square at the waterfront in Cape Town. There is one where he was arrested in Howe, which is in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. So there are quite a few Nelson Mandela statues here and there around the country.
Okay, Solomon, let's just have some bars of music for a few seconds, then we'll be back with you and your main guest out there.
Thank you, Ernest.
Dalipunga, Tela Kufa, Matiba, Molomsila, Vela Bambensele, Yem. A global icon, internationally acclaimed.
Nelson Mandela, Tata Madiba, father of the nation. Nelson Mandela, Tata Madiba, father of the nation. Kawela makawe, ageko ovana naye. Kawela makawe, ageko ovana naye. Imisebenzi yakho iyasimangaza, uyibekile nduwe bandla, sonke sifisa ukufana nawe. Uyisibonele emhlabeni wonke, uhlanganisa abamnyama nabamhlophe, wasenza sabanye sohlala sikuthanda.
Madiba, we shall sustain the momentum. Madiba, we shall preserve your legacy. Madiba, we shall emulate your values and principles. History demands that we succeed as a nation. History demands that we do not become complacent. History demands that we do not rest on our laurels and work harder. We are duty bound to rise above malice and prejudice. Let reason and wisdom prevail. Nicholas Mandela, a human treasure, a chief of Abatembo tribe, a former amateur boxer, a graduate from Robben Island Prison, a lawyer by profession. Madiba, the legendary leader, the first commander of Mkonto Wesizwe, a torchbearer who captured world attention, a trendsetter par excellence, 27 years behind bars in a concrete jungle. Indeed, the long road to freedom, the long walk to freedom.
You're our banner of peace, our pillar of strength, our soldiers' boots. You're the father of nations, the world's icon. Your name shall live on. Long live Tata Mandela. So shall I say good Nelson Mandela. Yabonga Tata Madiba, father of the nation. Oh, Nelson Mandela, Tata Madiba, father of the nation.
Okay, that one is titled Mandela and it's by Zahara featuring Zak Mbuli. Beautiful South African music, they're honoring the legendary Nelson Mandela. And at exactly 10 minutes past 11, which is of course 10 minutes past 6 out there in Johannesburg, time for us to move over to the Crown Plaza Hotel, downtown Johannesburg. And we're here It's a mild weather out there, beautiful weather. We have two young, energetic, dynamic African ladies who are ready to give us the Mandela talk this day. There is Weza Solange, who is an actress and who doubles as host at Channel O. We also have C4 Kazi Simanla, who is a businesswoman, an IT expert, and of course, she'll tell you the rest about herself. But first, let me just say good evening out there, ladies. First, you, Solange. How are you, Solange?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you so much for having us here.
So, how is South Africa today, Solange?
South Africa is more beautiful than usual.
Right.
It's been raining quite a lot, but today was a pleasant day, beautiful
Right.
and sunny.
Solange, before we get into the Mandela talk, let me just find out from you. You are a host on Channel O. This is a big TV outfit, not only in South Africa, but on the continent. Solange, how did you get on Channel O?
Funny enough, I'm originally from Angola. I'm not from South Africa. And Channel O wanted to have a show that would be able to join countries and will be able to join the continent together.
Right.
And it's through music. I believe that through music, it's the best and fastest way of joining culture so that we all understand that at the end of the day, it's the same beat that we follow. So I was cast in a show that would bring Angolan and Mozambican talent into the rest of Africa. And that is how I started on Channel O. And then I moved on to become an actress, and also I dabble in quite a lot of motivational talking. I do a little bit of everything, actually, here in South Africa and across Africa as well.
Okay. Good evening to you, Sifokazi Simanla. How are you today?
I'm good. It's been a good day, so I'm well.
That's great. We are happy to have you on African Cocktail. Solomon tells me you are a businesswoman. How is it like being a businesswoman in South Africa?
It's quite a good, probably, era to be a businesswoman. I think opportunities are there. You still have to work, though,
Right.
very hard. But I think it's a good century and it's a good decade. And there's opportunity for one to mine if there's appetite.
Okay. Okay, nice to hear. Solomon Atah, over to you and your guest.
Thank you very much, Ernest. This is a wonderful opportunity to be sitting and sandwiched almost literally between two power women. You will see all our listeners across the world, wherever you are, welcome again to Johannesburg, the city of gold. In fact, our streets are paved with gold. It's not even a joke in itself. Ladies, welcome, and thank you for joining us on Africa Ready to talk about a great man, Madiba. I'm sure that we're going to scratch in the surface. Is that right? Madiba is a topic that encyclopedia cannot encompass. Welcome to lunch.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's always a joy talking about such a great hero that I believe will live forever.
Indeed. Welcome, Okazi.
Thank you, Solomon. The pleasure. It almost feels small. I'm trying to talk about someone so huge. That is a size 14 shoe and we're just size 4 size 6. Exactly.
Well, I think we're going to enjoy the fact that he lived amongst us, inspired us so much, inspired us beyond our time here. I'm going to be asking you a few questions about a great man, as we commemorate his passing. How do you remember him? Okazi, let me start with you.
I think my memory of him from his stands out when he came out of prison. This is dating back to 1990. If my memory serves me right. That was the first time, because if you grew up in the late 70s or 80s, Mandela was an idea. You couldn't quite fathom what it is. There was a lot of songs about him. A lot of people liked him, and you didn't know why. Felt always in a black, but also sing Free Mandela songs, but you couldn't quite put it together in your head. You were also too young to be able to put the concept together. But when he came out in 91 and you saw him walking out of prison, holding hands with Mama Winnie Mandela, then he actually became a human being, not a concept anymore. So I think that picture stood a lot of things he couldn't quite put together. That's the picture that comes to mind for me.
Fantastic. Solange, how do you remember Madiba? Wow. What is Madiba's concept of this powerful human being?
Exactly what you say, a concept. For us, I mean, growing up in Angola in a time of war in which South Africa was going through apartheid, Angola was, Madiba was a myth to us. He was this man that we heard was in prison fighting for freedom, but no one, I remember in our passport, he would say that we were allowed to go to every single country except South Africa. So yes, exactly, except apartheid South Africa. So everything that had to do with South Africa and the struggle and Mandela, everything was just what we heard. Nothing was real until I came here. And by the time I came into South Africa, he was already a free man. And it was just such joy to be able to be part of a generation that actually saw this man and saw his word and were able to hear his word as he was alive. And like my story of this larger than life persona that would have everyone eating out of his hands when he would speak. Nobody would read the words because we wanted to take him, everything that would come out of him. And he gave a lot of strength for people in other countries that thought that they weren't strong enough to fight for what they believed in. And we all looked him and referenced. Exactly, like if he can do it, so can. If he stood the test of time and is still doing what he believes in, why can't we? So for me, he's that figure that helps a lot of Angolans, number one, believe that it's not over even though the wait is long and you can definitely achieve what you want if you work for it.
Fantastic. Look, I think that talking about Madiba at this time, a year on after he has passed, how do you think, I'm going to come back to his book, guys, how do you think that, no, let me put it this way, do you think that Madiba changed the world?
Most definitely. I think the other time we were talking about the fact that you will not come across a president in the whole world that will not quote Madiba.
Yes.
So, and even in the United States, whether you are going to quote Bill Clinton, whether it's the former President Bush, whether it's the current President Obama, so you go to the West, there's Via Mandela. If Mandela says, they keep quiet. If you go to the East, when Mandela talks, they listen. If you go up Europe, when Mandela talks, they listen. If you go up to India, the Queen herself, and Majesty listen. And this is an ordinary black person man who was never knighted as prince or a king, but he had so much stature that the whole world felt he needed to be listened to.
Interesting. Just on that thought, when I read a report earlier on from prison to power, and has the Mandela legacy not been factored in by African leaders who, for some reason, have not really taken with mercy of perhaps leading a country for a short time and letting somebody else do it? Do you think that the African leaders, because you mentioned where he's revered across the ocean, but on our own continent, we don't seem to have really made him the hero that he is in terms of his leadership?
I don't think I think the dynamics are different. I'd want to say that it was that simple, where you say, look, Mandela stepped for one term and then he stepped down and he retired from politics, and he allowed himself to fade out. He didn't wait for the coffin to come and fetch him in his office, as we'd almost look at some of our African presidents. They will not be by talk. It has to be by some God's intervention.
Exactly.
But I think the dynamics are different. I don't think that it's so that they don't want to receive what Mandela is coming up with, but the ability of being able to let go brings in other dynamics. Others are staying in because if they step out, then corruption charges are going to be laid on them. Others are staying in because they're still trying to make sure that their family, wives, anybody else is lined up properly. So you find that the system has got a fault in it. It's not the individual now who knows that the system has lots of broken pieces in it. So they don't step down to protect themselves, not because they don't know that they should.
So I was wondering your thoughts around the fact that my feeling as an African child is that the leaders in Africa ought to have taken a page, if not borrowed the book that Mandela kind of wrote for everyone.
But you know what? I remember you just said that Mandela retired from politics. I completely disagree. I feel like Mandela stepping down was the best political move he could have made, because number one, he became the one president that did not come across as greedy. Mandela is one of the few presidents that could have been in power until now if he wanted to, and people would not complain because of the kind of man that he is. But I believe that Mandela became larger than life when he came out and stepped down as president, and because then he didn't just help South Africa, he helped the rest of the world. He had freedom to go around and speak forth all that was inside of you. And the thing about this African president is that there is only one Mandela. And I believe that when it comes to Africa, it's very much about power. It's not even about money. Most of them have enough money for the next 5 generations. But the kind of power that you lose when you're not a president anymore, a lot of them cannot deal with that. Mandela still maintained and increased the kind of power that he had even after presidency. Not every man can do that.
Let me move to a little bit of something that perhaps a lot more people will connect with, because I want to kind of drive the conversation towards its legacy. What would you, in both of you ladies, think that is Mandela's biggest legacy? Maybe I should tell you for once.
Wow. I don't think there is only one. I think that Mandela, I wouldn't say that Mandela changed the world. I feel that Mandela changed the mindset of the people that have the power to change the world. So
that's a good way of really putting it up.
Exactly. So it is a link, like the legacy that Mandela left beside his charity work, and it's the ability to make human beings rationalize outside of hate. It's the ability to make human beings learn not to be greedy and know that you can still get something out that is not power over everyone else. So I think that Mandela's biggest legacy was his mind, because that man empowered himself with book after book while he was in prison, and his biggest legacy was his wisdom. That is why up to today people are still quoting Nelson Mandela, and they will until the end of time. His biggest legacy is definitely his wisdom.
Because I think in the depth of that wisdom, for me what stands out was his ability to change his mind. Because you gotta understand that a lot of people post Mandela, post 1990, they wouldn't want to go back to 1930. They don't want to go back to the Transkei boy without a father. So they don't want to quote the fact that he was actually just a lawyer. He went to a missionary school. He actually started the MK. You gotta imagine the amount of anger that he might have had for him to push the ANC towards from non-violence to military. But he's strong enough and bold enough and has enough insight to say, I'm not stopping non-violence, I'm going back again to the case.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's doing this while leaving thousands of people, if not 100,000.
Angry people, especially with the experiences after 1948, that everyone in South Africa, especially those that were marginalized, with the experience.
Most definitely. So it's a very risky proposition to be swinging from non-violence to violence, and then from violence back to the death. And then you tell the people that you said shoot to kill, that now we're going to sit down with these people. Not only are we going to sit down in conversation, we're actually going to shoot them.
And not hurt them.
And beyond that, you're actually not going to love them.
He now becomes, sharing the Nobel Peace Prize, the former President de Klerk, became the big symbol of peace in the world, and forgiveness. And there are those moments that he introduced quite early in his presidency in 1995 when, I'm going to ask you, what was the significance of him wearing the Springbok jersey during the Rugby 1995 World Cup at Ellis Park?
I think it's just the thought still gives me the goosebumps. Because you got to understand that there was an us and them. And we were happy being in the them and the others in the us.
Yes.
You know, this was a happy separation. We we're cool with not getting along.
Yeah.
I think they actually messed up our party and forced us into a mindset that had to now reconsider some of the values we adopted.
This is like him passing on his attributes of self-transcendence, going beyond yourself. Yeah.
This is beyond. He didn't bring, because ultimately, if I was in his place, I would have got my own cotton jacket and said, all of you, I'm in charge. You change and know what I want. But it goes because to the other side in the US, what they have.
Yes.
Now, for a second, you feel that it's betrayed you as a black man. Because you think, how could you? That's the Jesus they refuse to ever swear.
Yeah.
And now the African man is also not sure whether this is real.
Yeah.
Because he's expecting him at any time to pull out an AK-47 and stand right in the place. You should have been right.
Yeah, I was feeling it was not more even actually, Papa.
And it would have been right, you know. He would have had all the 10 reasons, 27 years prison, separation of wives, this and that. All so many people that died.
Yeah.
But he didn't. So internally, for me, at that level, you almost think of Dalai Lama. You almost think of the people that have really transcended. Because you can't express that outwardly if it's not you inwardly.
Yeah. When I come back, because I'm going to give Ernest the line to take some other contributions from across the world. When I come back to we're going to just explore a little bit more where we ended just now. Ernest, over to you.
Thank you so much, Solomon Atah, and the guests out there, Solange and Sophie Kaza. Thank you so much for that first segment of our very special conversation on Mandela this day. And for those of you just joining us, this is African Cocktail coming to you from Africa Radio, special edition run from Columbus, Ohio, United States of America, and Johannesburg, South Africa, with Solomon Atah and, of course, myself, Ernest Kanjo. Let's listen to some music. Then we see what to do next.
We set you free eternally in the light of love. Tatanalu sapolako lukubonga ngotano. We salute you.
February 1990. Okay, One Love, Majiba, that beautiful one there from Yolan Iawa, titled One Love, Majiba. This is the special episode of African Cocktail devoted to the first anniversary of Nelson Mandela's departure. But then all this started 24 years ago when Nelson Mandela was led out of Robben Island, a prison in which he had been a tenant for 27 years. And then when Mandela walked out of that prison on the 11th of February 1990, it was the beginning of another phase of the Mandela history, which turned out to be really, really brilliant and fantastic, and of course inspiring. And that is why we are here today to talk about how Mandela inspired us. But then I'm going to take you back. Let's find out how people reacted on the 11th of February 1990 when Mandela was released. Last year, on a similar show, we had Dr. Peter Karim Sise, who is a lecturer at the Colombo State Community College here in the United States of America, and who is also an expert in South African politics. And we sought to know from Dr. Sise where he was on the 11th of February and how he felt seeing Mandela coming out of prison triumphantly. This is what Dr. Sise had to tell us. On the 11th of February 1990, where were you?
11th of February 1990.
That is the day
Mandela was released from prison. I think February, if my memory can get me right, I was in school, in secondary school at the time.
Right.
And in fact, that news came to us at the time we're studying history, studying African history.
Right.
We have read the history of South Africa and the oppression of the apartheid system, and we were so happy to hear that Mandela of all has been released from jail. It was joy.
I happen to have watched that event live. I watched how Mandela was coming out of Robben Island. Gentlemen, did any of you watch this scene live?
Yes. Not on that day, but I've seen it in pictures again and again and again, over and over.
Okay, Dr. Sise, when you watch Mandela coming out, from the gates of Robben Island, what kind of feelings did you have?
Well, first, I was an undergraduate student at the University of Sierra Leone at the time.
Right.
And I never thought I would see that day. Yeah. Many South Africans died before that day, trying to see that day. So, in fact, during the elections, I was in Southern Africa a few years later. Some old people determined to see change literally fell down and died while waiting in long lines to vote for Mandela. So that was one of the side effects of that. But there were people who said, "You are going to drag me in a wheelbarrow," but I am going to experience that change myself. So when Mandela walked out of prison at 71 years old, following his release on February 2nd, 1990, the full impact of what had just endured and for how long it had happened finally began to hit me.
Let me turn to you, Sebastian. What would you, explain the fact that Mandela spent 27 years in prison? 27 years is such a long time, yet this gentleman still had hopes of winning a struggle that had deprived him of freedom for a very long time.
I believe actually self-conviction. He was actually very, very confident of himself, confident of the fight, and confident that he had the support of the people. And like he said, and he always says, that he did not win the fight alone.
Right.
It was a collective fight, launched not only by the people of South Africa, but also by people of goodwill from all over the world. And like you know very well, even right here in the United States, there were activists who were fighting and lobbying and campaigning against the apartheid regime in South Africa.
Right.
And all that collective effort yielded on that day when he was released. But the most single and the sole proprietor of this defeat is Mandela.
I asked that question because I can imagine one day in prison could be very, very frustrating, but someone stays in there for 27 years, yet he still has, the courage to come out and do what he did. Now, let us look at this. Mandela's incarcerators would have done away with his life. It was possible. They did not. Do you kind of see a hand of God in this whole drama?
Of course, I'm religious, I'm Catholic. I believe God is involved in everything. So everything that has happened in South Africa is a miracle in itself.
Right.
And God always seems to have something to do with miracles. So we cannot exclude God from this. Many people lost their lives during this struggle. In 1976, there was a student uprising that the apartheid regime reacted to, unleashing a brutal repression, killing dozens of innocent school children. That was nicknamed the Sharpeville Massacre. South Africans celebrate that every year, a reminder of that sad. In addition to Mandela, many ANC members suffered great torture and imprisonment. Some of them were killed during this struggle. Even Zuma, Thabo Mbeki and others did years in prison. A whole generation taken out of these men's lives. The good thing is, I think in the end, God wanted to have that kind of resolve, but God was certainly involved, in my opinion.
Sebastian, I understand you are a Christian as well. Do you think that this was the way God wanted to tell the world that He is alive?
Actually, you do not expect that God himself would have to come down to show us his presence.
Right.
He shows us himself through examples, and there are so many ways in which God actually indicates that he is living.
Right.
And like he did, he sent his son Jesus Christ to die for our sins. And the coming of Mandela can be likened to the coming of Jesus Christ, so that we can learn. It's always an opportunity for us to learn.
And also look at this. Mandela contracted tuberculosis while in prison. He came out of prison, lived for long. The world witnessed how his health deteriorated, and at one moment he became really, really weak. Then people even rumored at one time that he was gone, yet he was not gone. So he lived on. What do you make of this? A miracle?
Yeah, it's a living miracle. I mean, one that we have not only read in books, but we have lived it. We have lived to see it. And in fact, Mr. Ernest, I can bet you things happen this way so people can actually learn. So what is Mandela's legacy, and what lessons can we learn from Mandela's lifestyle?
Right.
What really can we, especially African leaders, what are the lessons that Mandela's life has taught us?
Right. We'll come back to those lessons which African leaders must learn. Dr. Cisse, once he was out of prison, Mandela continued the struggle, to end apartheid, but opted for reconciliation. Some observers think that he was being sheepish, after the pains he had gone through in prison. What can you say about that? Was Mandela stupid to have opted for reconciliation?
Nonsense, I would say. In fact, reconciliation, as we are learning now, it's one of the probably the best tool that Mandela would have used, and specifically in the case of South Africa, with groups divided and the bitter history of oppression and lack of trust between the groups, especially the white settlers who believe that now Mandela is going to turn around and punish us. He's going to push us out into the sea. We are on our own once we give. In fact, that was the foundation of the Apartheid National Party, the Apartheid Party itself. That was the basis of apartheid, to try and protect white settlers that were already living there, for fear that they will be thrown into the Atlantic. And so, some people also ask, why did Mandela stay out and bringing a new person to take at that particular point in time? Mandela was the best person to lead South Africa into the kind of dream he was looking for, a rainbow coalition.
Right.
The Boer settlers for over 300 years had been very effective in dividing South Africa into homelands, into all sorts of territories, regions based on, and so it was necessary at that time. I remember Buthelezi and others having real difficulties with this reconciliation party at that time, and creating a lot of trouble in the region during that process. And so, because of this 27 years in jail and this saint-like character that Mandela had come to represent, people all over the world knowing him by first name, put him in the ideal position to fight for reconciliation. Here, look at what happened next door. Robert Mugabe kicked away white farmers, replaced them with black farmers, could not, produce food to feed themselves within a short few years, and things like that. So, in summary, based on the specific circumstance,
we're charging heaven. Give us this day
Alright, beautiful South African piece there titled The Lord's Prayer by Sarafina. We are still in the Mandela special episode of African Cocktail, and it is AC number 78 coming to you from Africa Radio with Solomon Atah and Ernest Kanjo. It's exactly a 11:45 here in the studio of Africa Radio, and of course it's 6:45 out there in Johannesburg, South Africa. Before this beautiful piece, we are listening there to Dr. Peter Karim Cisse and Sebastian Tabot. Both gentlemen joined me here 1 year ago to talk about Mandela. That is when the legend departed away from us. And we are back today to pay tribute to Mandela in a special way. African Cocktail number 78, like I said, with Ernest Kanjo and Solomon Atah. Let us move down to the Crown Plaza Hotel in Johannesburg and meet our guests Sifo Kazi Simanda and Solange Weza, who are with our man Solomon Atah. Solomon, over to you.
Thank you, Ernest. Welcome to you and your listeners to the Crown Plaza at Rosebank. We're still here in this generously donated mini studio with our two guests, Ernest, Sifo Kazi Simanda and Weza Solange. Both of them are called in power ladies in their own right. before I gave you the line earlier on, we were just chatting across its significance, and I was going to talk to Solange about it. The significance of Madiba putting on the Springbok jersey in 1995, in which game we later won the World Cup. What does that really mean to you?
I said this was before my time. When I say before my time, I mean before I arrived in South Africa. But funny enough, when I speak to most of the South Africans that I know, they said exactly the same thing when it comes to, they were mad for a second. They were mad and they were confused, thinking, what is going on? They felt betrayed. And I think that I would feel exactly the same thing. Because the wonderful grandness of Madiba is that he wouldn't explain himself very often. And I love that. He would do things and then somehow he got people to follow through without having to say lots of words. You see, most of the speeches by Madiba that I remember, except for the grand one, he would just say a few words, almost never explaining himself, but just declaring what he was going to do and why it was right. And he made you come to the realization that yes, it actually was right. That was a bold move. A lot of people only understood that move years later. Either they were still angered at what was happening on their surroundings, or they were still hurt or not able to forgive. But that was the first step of Madiba showing that we are supposed to be one. Indeed. That was his move of, listen, we are going to be one whether you want it or not. This is how we're going to be going forward from now on.
Let me just start bringing Fokazi a little bit. Fokazi, do you think that the fact that he won or he wore the Springbok jersey let us win that World Cup against your all black of all people?
I think that's where the Madiba magic is. I think we threw the world off balance.
Got the haka dancing New Zealanders.
Even the New Zealanders were still trying to grasp what had just happened. And when the game started, they didn't know their fun from their bags. And I think just that.
Let me just hold your thought there. You will remember that the first boycott was actually big in New Zealand. So the New Zealanders coming, the All Blacks coming to their rock meeting, and we won because Madiba was wearing the green and gold.
Yes, and even if nowadays you go to the township, a lot of the black South Africans support New Zealand, and purely out of history.
Wow.
Not because they knew that New Zealand was supporting the struggle days and supporting the blacks.
Wow.
So coming in, most of the black South Africans were supporting New Zealand in the game. So the whole speech must have even gotten the New Zealanders was dropping, thinking, how could you just drop us like that?
I thought we were together.
We thought we were tight. We were on one side, and there you go crossing over. But he's as Solange is saying, that his ideas of stuff was way bigger than we thought. And while there was rugby being played, he was busy working on the mindset.
He was busy working
on the mindset. He was working at different levels. We wanted to win games. He was winning life. Yeah. So if you look at it, we were busy trying to say it was never a jersey thing. The jersey was symbolic, but the gesture was even larger than just the game.
And that gesture lasts in the minds of people in terms of a reference anchor point each time anyone talks about the first World Cup. And the gentleman was just under a year in office, just been sworn in on the 10th of May, or maybe just a year in office, and we won the World Cup. And the victory flowed, and there was Bafana the following year, and so on. What would you...
I mean, if you look at it, I don't even think there is a marketer today of all these marketing gurus who find that would have masterminded that.
That is true.
That
is a stroke of genius.
There's a stroke of genius. There's a marketing strategy there. There is a coaching strategy. There is all sorts of strategies to that.
You would know because actually a sport. And that led, like I indicated earlier, that led into the same thing happened in 1996 when Bafana won. So Africa just went on a winning streak. From Madiba and everything just went on a winning streak.
And it introduced in self-belief. Because you've got to understand that, and this is the dynamics that South Africans still struggle with today. Once they've been separated separated from the rest of Africa and the rest of the world for so long. We think that the world is just South Africa, unless they've traveled or they've had their eyes opened. So the idea of coming back into world games needed somebody to say to them it's possible. Needed someone to give them permission to think that they are worthy of being there.
And I see South African tourism started with alive with possibility, just along this Madiba trend. That Madiba was just setting trends for everyone to win.
It's a marketer. You can't take that from him. You can see.
So let me kind of move it a little bit towards just asking this question around the fact that a lot of people, most people seem to think that Mandela was the father for everyone that did not have a father. That perhaps their father didn't come back from the 20s, or something happened to their father, perhaps in a single parent home, that Mandela represented to them individually, that you could walk up to him and say, Tata, and you say, yes, child, something.
I feel like Mandela was a father to the fatherless, and even to the ones that had a father. I feel like if you didn't even like your father, you would daydream of why cannot my father be Madiba? And the thing about Mandela is that he is authoritative, larger than life speaker, that you would probably tremble of the sight of seeing him because you have heard so much about him and you have admired him so much. But at the same time, everyone that has personally met Mandela speaks about his kindness and the way I remember watching an interview in which people say Mandela would meet you once and he would remember your name. And that is so significant when someone like that will come to you and greet you by name. That will make your year, that will make your life. And that is why people felt like he could be your father, because he had a gentleness about him, that kindness about powerful yet gentle. Exactly, but at the same time, he's the kind of man that would, if you were wrong, he would tell it to your face and you would listen. I will agree. You will have to agree, and I told that from Naomi Campbell. I remember in an interview that she would say that she knows she's a rebel, and she knew that many times she was out of control, and there was a time that no one could get her to do anything. But when she met Madiba, he was the one man, and she came many times to South Africa because of him. And he was the one man that could get her to listen. She would literally actually listen to him. And for you to have that kind of effect on strangers, I mean, we have politicians all over the world, but he was something different. And Mandela brought the curiosity out of what Africa is like. Remember how people wouldn't come to Africa because they felt that Africa, forget South Africa, Mandela made Africa a one nation. So he allowed people to come and know that, you know what, actually there is more than trees and animals roaming around. He allowed thinking people. He, because of his wisdom, made people realize that actually there is more to Africans than what the world is showing us. Because the world would show Africa is this retro, ignorant, still living in trees kind of people. And then you look at Madiba and you're making politicians all over the world speeches and like, where did this man come from? But Africa, oh wow, I want to know if there's more of him out there.
Let me just move it a little bit further, because it's a question that I'm going to ask you, but I'm going to ask you this question in passing, and now I'm going to also give you a lunch on this, is that if you had the opportunity to meet Madiba, what are you going to do? Ask him a question? Say something to him? What are you going to do?
I would probably go with him for a walk and ask him nothing. Wait for him to say something and just listen. Because probably anything he said, I would hold him, because I wouldn't want to guide him.
Yes.
I would have the depth of understanding that he has already read me. He already knows what, he already has made up, he's smart enough to gather. And he's got enough intuition to get where I'm at. So that kind of, I think
he had a powerful intuition.
So I would not ask him, I didn't take that ask a stupid question. That would probably be my first year. Because I think, so how's the weather? Seriously? So, what's your feeling about winning? You like, I wouldn't just go, there's nothing I would think, I don't think my mind could conceive a question to ask him. I would wait for him drop something.
Yeah.
The spirit would drop something, and that I would assume would be the conversation of the day.
Okay. So, what would you, if you had the opportunity, privilege, whatever it is, that you walk into a room and here was Madiba, what are we going to say to your husband?
If I had the opportunity, after the shock, because I think that I would literally be paralyzed, just by his aura and his presence. But I remember engaging many times meeting Madiba, and because of my background with politics in Angola, there are a lot of unresolved issues that I remember having and feeling like only Madiba can make me understand. I know that he has thought a lot about the power of forgiveness, but I would want to sit down with him one-on-one, no cameras around, and just say, please give it to me. Have you really forgiven these people, and how did you do it? Because I feel like with Angolans there is so much hatred that stayed after the war that I just want to know how this man overcame it. And I don't believe a lot in political speeches because I feel like we need to control the masses for the greater good. But when you are one-on-one, it's easier to go down to the greedy details and go like, listen, actually, you know what, I imagine that I didn't actually forgive him for about 20 years, but we needed to get the people to calm down. Like every day, this is what I did. This was my step so that I could look at the people in the face and not tell somebody to shoot them down. I wanted to know where that inner strength came from. Was it meditation? Was it prayer? Was it breathing? And how can I use them exactly? I would want to feed the fountain of that energy and of that wisdom. And I mean, a lot of quotations about Madiba is about giving back unto others. And that is what I've always wanted. Men like him that make me believe that whatever I'm here on this earth to do, it is not only about me. It's about contributing elsewhere. So I wanted to know, how do we do that? Give me notes. I will have a book of, actually, I will record you right now. Tell me what.
Let me give you two of Madiba's quotes. It says, man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden, but never extinguished. That's one of his quotes. And the other one says, resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemy. So if you look at someone that thinks like this, it really shows you that all the time that he existed, he only existed so that others can live. It was more about others. Yes.
But I'd love to find the transition time for him.
Yeah.
But at what era? What was that? When did he turn the corner?
Yeah, that moment
that John has been sitting somewhere in a small cell, I'd like to imagine somewhere in Robben Island, and the penny dropped.
Yeah.
This is what you must do. And everything else you've got to be true of yourself. And the rightness of you not to forgive.
Yeah.
You know, and all the bad things. How do you turn that corner? And what informs turning that corner? That for me would be the part that was it in 1988? Was it in 1998?
When he walked out of the prison gate in Portsmouth, wherever he walked out of the gate in Paul, when did it happen to him that he chose to?
I think it was
so transcendent.
But it would have probably would have been before, and also taking into account that it's before, the pain has not changed.
Yeah.
So it's not like, if you're talking post 94, you say I've forgiven because. Then it's different because the external pressure has changed.
Yeah.
So therefore I feel internally I can change. But if it changed in the 70s, when people were still being killed,
and you're fighting with yourself because I feel like your heart is telling you one thing and your mind another.
I think that
exactly. I really do feel that although to us he was a strong speaker, as a human being, there is no way that he had his own struggles. But I also believe that Mandela, we wanted him so much. He was a part of the world. But it must be very lonely to be that wise because you are least years ahead of everybody else. Most of the people don't understand why you want to do the things that you're doing. People are so ready to fight for you and to fight for what you believe in, and then just flip the coin and you have to convince them why you need to not go to war. Exactly. You did that all by yourself. You lived in your corner. You had to struggle with your own internal thoughts, and then once that was dealt or half dealt with, you had to take that into the world.
Another to say is the one question, because someone I had to write a piece a couple of years back. I was at a here to interview Mandela or write a speech to him, what would you ask? And I think then I wrote a question that says, how did you cope? Who's your friend?
Yeah.
So there's time, yeah. So
I've been reading my notes because of that. Who do you think were Mandela's friends?
So this is me, I come back from work and I really think the world sucks at times.
Yeah.
I don't like God, I don't like people, I don't like being alive. So in there I have my glass of something and I'm just in my pity party. Yeah. And I've got those friends of people, then they allow me to do that. So I'd love to see, I would love to expect him on his pity party. And hear him saying, you know what, I am so this tired, and you find that probably the half of his paragraph is dipped out with a lot of colorful vocabulary.
Matiba words. I remember from television images and from newspaper images that he was a genuine happy man. He was genuinely a very genuinely happy man. So he comes now was in a hard time that who would be his friends? Who were the sort of people that he kept with?
I think number one is wife. I feel like, at least I really do believe that someone who waits for a man for such a long time and not know if he's ever going to come out and just continue with his vision out there must deeply love this man. And I really do believe that for him as a man, let's forget Mandela the politician, just Mandela as a human being, as a man, to know that your wife waited for you for all these years. I mean, your admiration and respect for her just goes miles, you understand? So I feel like he would feel, if they were together in that this is the one person that has waited and has thought and has believed that I can tell anything and he's not going to get out of this room. Because a lot of the friends were politicians. A lot of the friends were people that were not listening to advice. Exactly. Always doing and you don't look at Mandela as a person that you can advise. You just want to take all of my things. When I see him, I want his wisdom. I want his word. Just want to take exactly. But don't ever give.
Okay, someone just hold your thought. Yeah, yes, go for it.
I think the one person though he would have in is sit with and just drop his guard.
Yeah.
But for me, at a friend level, you've got to be able to drop the guard. No one is asking for anything. And I can actually say, I'm just getting tired of human beings.
Yeah.
I'm tired of it.
Wipe them out.
Wipe them out. Let me be Noah. I've started new generation. I think Desmond Tutu, he could have said it.
You know that there is a very nice comedy thing kept going up between him and Desmond and the Archbishop, and they will have a chit chat, and it's quite weird that it is incredible in the way that they connected both in public and even in their own private space. So let me talk to Ernest a little bit, and when they come back, he's going to tell me about how you perceive that friendship between Madiba is no longer amongst us and the Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu. Ernest, over to you.
Thank you so much, Solomon Atah, and your two guests there, Sifokazi Simanda and Weza Solange. Okay, this is African Cocktail number 78, devoted to the legend Nelson Mandela, who passed on in December of 2013, but whose legacy continues to live on. Let's have some music, then we ride on. Uk Masekela in that beautiful piece that was done long before Mandela was brought out of the Robben Island. You're listening to African Cocktail coming to you from Africa Radio. We still have lots and lots of interesting items coming up. We're still going to make a stopover in the Crown Plaza Rosebank Hotel out there in Johannesburg, where Solange and Steve Okazi have been speaking with our man Solomon Atah. Okay, let's listen to this, then we'll be right back. Still to come, we shall be listening to a reflection by our resource person number one, Kenneth Ngamne. Call him Ken Charlie Monet, who will be paying his own tribute to Nelson Mandela in his own special way, just like Solange and Sifo Kazi have been doing out there in Johannesburg with our man Solomon Atah. African Cocktail number 78 coming to you from Africa Radio with Ernest Kanjo. We're still expecting Ifana Kwala, who will be reporting from the banks of the River Vuri in Douala, and of course Titus Banyo will be talking to us from Antwerp, Belgium.
This is Africa Radio, number one radio in Columbus, Ohio. Africa Radio, Akwabo.
Hey, watch a man, just like the water that flow out from the mountain. Africa Radio.
From best of evidence, from PC Mandela became a president. Mandela is a proof of best intelligence, the only best among the other government. This one of today, it is only in Africa.
Hey, his name is Dukan Mighty in that beautiful reggae piece there titled Madiba Mandela. Let's savor it, then we'll be right back.
I wonder why it didn't happen for Europe. I wonder why it didn't happen for America. I wonder why it didn't happen for UK. Only in Africa. Oh no 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 no. If you can remember the Soweto massacre, Sharpeville, Peterson, I love Mandela. I wanna be like Madiba, who is a true leader. Mandela, who is a statesman. Mandela, a good example. Mandela, a good example. Mandela, he's not a politician. From prison, Mandela became a president. Mandela is a proof of best intelligence. The only best among the other governments. For Iran, we love Mandela. I say for Syria, Egypt and Israel, I say for Russia, for North Korea.
Okay, we shall definitely come back to that beautiful reggae piece there titled Madiba Mandela by Duncan, mighty South African artist. The time for us to listen to the CEO of Africa Radio, Nana Ampem. Nana has been very concerned about politics in Africa, and he's one of those who spoke so emotionally when Mandela passed on last year. Nana has decided to come back this time, 1 year after Mandela's demise, to give us this very interesting reflection, which I'll enjoin you to listen.
Good morning, listeners of African Cocktail. It's wonderful to talk to you. And as an African, for that matter, a Ghanaian, I feel very proud to have a world icon, to have a Nobel Peace Prize winner in the person of Mandela to be an African. A personality that the whole world hails, the whole world see as a mentor, the whole world see as a star of Africa because of his service to humanity. I wish all African leaders would be like him. I wish we Africans living today will be like him. So when we are gone, our works will speak for itself. I'm really proud. After 1 year of the demise of Mandela, he serves in my heart as a monument of change, which I know I will make a mark before I also say goodbye to this world. Thank you so much, Ernest, and the listeners of African Cocktail. I hope we will do our bit to make a change to this world. I want to say thank you so much for having me on your show. Let's all be a symbol of change. For that matter, a positive change that will impact positively into the race of human life. God leave Africa.
Has a proof and best of evidence. From prison, Mandela became a president. Mandela is a proof of best intelligence. The only best among the other governments. This one of today, it is only in Africa. International crime court to sell it. International crime court to sell it. I wonder why it didn't happen for Asia. I wonder why it didn't happen for Europe. I wonder why it didn't happen for America. I wonder why it didn't happen for UK. Only in Africa. Oh no 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 no. If you can remember the Soweto massacre, Shabby, Hector Peterson, I love Mandela. I wanna be like Madiba. Who is a true leader? Mandela. Who is a statesman? Mandela. A good example. Mandela. A good example. Mandela. He's not a politician. Mandela. He's always got the vision. Mandela. Deliver our nation. Mandela. Oh no 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 Mandela. La, la, Mandela. A man who has a proof and best of evidence. From prison, Mandela became a president. Mandela is a proof of best intelligence. The only best among the other governments. For Iran, we love Mandela.
The only best among the other governments. Beautiful piece. They're hailing Nelson Mandela for what he did to the world. Just like what Nana Ampem has been saying, we need to create a positive impact when we are gone, just like Mandela did. Thank you so much, Nana Ampem, for that beautiful reflection you gave us in this very special episode of African Cocktail broadcast of this day, Wednesday, December the 10th, 2014. And at exactly 12:15 here in the studio of Africa Radio, we should be 7:15 out there in Johannesburg, South Africa. Time for us to go back to the Crown Plaza Rosebank Hotel to meet Solomon Atah and his guests. Solomon, over to you.
Thank you, Ernest. Welcome to you again for the last bit of what is left of African Cocktail, the 10th of December, number 78. I'm still sitting here with two power ladies, Tipokazi Simanda and Weza Solange. Ernest, before I carry on this, to talk about a little bit of who Madiba's friends were, by the time I get to the line, we were tilting the conversation towards Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu. First, let me give you one of Madiba's quotes. He says, and I quote, he says, "We must use time wisely and forever realize that the time is always right to do what is right." That leads me to you, because you were sharing your thoughts with us earlier on about who Madiba could be chit-chatting, who, when you were still alive, strong, going about, perhaps, maybe just after you left public office, who would be his friends? And you mentioned someone like the Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu.
Yes, because I think there's a stark resemblance between the two of them, and also the ability to speak their minds. I don't think that they would necessarily agree on everything. Yeah. I think you would find them picking on each other every now and then, mocking each other. Yeah. But I think they have so much years of experience behind them that they would have mutual respect for each other. And the one would not be in awe of the other one because they have both and their stripes. And also Mandela would then be comfortable enough to say, "How are you coping with these people? How do you do it? Or do you want to tell your God to change a few things for me?" I think that they would have that level of jokes and equalness, and would be able to look at the world and make comments about it. Be able to look at South Africa and all the 48 million people and tell them, "Look at how weird we are."
And have a laugh about it.
And have a laugh about it, and look at the rest of us, and maybe even pick on one or other president and ask him when last to speak to him. Did he call and tell you the same nonsense he told me? Yeah. I think they'd be able to compare notes. Yeah. They'll be able to pick on each other. Yeah. They'll make jokes about each other. Yeah. And they'll be able to look at different worldviews, but they'll be at the same level of engagement.
This in terms of friendship. When I spoke to someone earlier on, I was in France recently, having a coffee, and I was saying, in my view, I think that Madiba was just friends with children, that he loved children quite so much, and it's one of his biggest favorites with children.
I feel like, I wouldn't say friends, but I feel like Madiba knew that children are the future. And the best way to leave a legacy is by making sure that the next generation continues with their thoughts. So I feel like Madiba wanted to give this kid the chance of getting to know who he really was, because children will take your ideas and then use it. They will tell something to an adult, and then they will change it according to their morals, their own ideas, their own experiences. But if you give it to children, it's pure, and they will take it the way you intend it. And if they don't understand it, you'll ask them so that they understand what it is that you mean, and that is how you carry on forward. But at the same time, I feel like he was, you could see by Madiba's sincerity that he was a very funny man. He had a very beautiful sense of humor, and a very smart sense of humor as well. So I feel like the kind of people that would be friends with him are the kind that would understand his sense of humor. Because if you have such pressures of the world on your shoulders, sometimes you just want to laugh. Even if you laugh about the situation that everybody else is crying about, you just need somebody else to sit down with you and go like, "It's pathetic, let's just laugh instead of crying." So it's that mixture of people equally wise and equally intelligent, because you need iron sharpens iron. So you need the people that have the same caliber that you have to help you elevate. Exactly. And then the children to make sure that the legacy and your ideas are safe. Because adults are going to corrupt it, they're going to try to manipulate it to fit their own needs and their own agendas. So that information is safe with children, and they will try to bring it out and continue the best way that we taught them how.
Okay, fantastic. We're going to be wrapping this conversation very soon, maybe the next 5 minutes or so. I just want to, now that we talk about Madiba, like a very fun way of talking about him, if you were to run into a member of his family, what kind of message, what kind of remark, what kind of word, comfort, or joy, whatever it be, that you can be able to share with the family? If you're listening right now.
I think for me, strangely, the one thing that comes to mind is that I apologize.
Yeah.
I would apologize for all the other pain and absence they felt that we would never start to comprehend while we needed him as the world. And I've passed on that general apology on behalf of the world. Because I want to believe that a 6-year-old like Lincoln would never ask for his father to go to prison. It would almost look like a betrayal. He chose the world over. And for me, I would want to say on behalf of the world, I'm sorry. And I'm saying to the young child, I'm not saying to the adult who can listen. I'm saying to the child who had an absent father that everyone was singing about in the street, but he was not at home when she couldn't sleep at night. He was not at home for when she closed schools and he needed to see her school report. Yeah. The simple things that he needed to do that his daddy does, so he never got in bed. All those things. They couldn't go shopping to buy Christmas clothes. Couldn't get a toy. And they needed to live in the figment of imagination. So I'll just say I'm sorry. Then afterwards I'll be just grateful that they allowed it to happen. Yeah. Emma?
Yeah, I agree absolutely with you because I agree with your apology, and I also feel like thank you is in order. Thank you for sharing your father with us, even though you had no choice. Thank you, because they did not have a choice in the matter. And I'm sure that as a child, you don't care that this is one of the most important people in the world. You want your father. You want your daddy. You want your bedtime story. You want someone to go and cry to because of your problems. Because why can everybody else cry to you, but you don't have time for us? So thank you. Thank you for sharing him with us, because everyone else is just thanking him, but we are forgetting about you. Because you had to sacrifice so much so that we could have him and call him our Atah, our father. So thank you. Even though you had no choice, if you're listening anyway, just thank you for sharing Nelson Mandela with us. You will forever be greater than life, and you will forever remain alive beside all of us.
Actually, thank you very much, both of you, Solange, before I let you go, because I know that you have a shoot.
Yes.
And Pokazi also running. We thank you both for talking to Africa Radio, African Cocktail. So before you go, please just take a minute, 30 seconds, tell us about it. Starting with you, Pokazi. What do you do? Yeah, what do you do? You're a businesswoman, you're a speaker, you're an e-waste campaigner, an ICT specialist, all of that. Tell us a bit about it, because I want all the young girls that are thinking out there that, oh my gosh, I want to be an actor, and they don't have a lot of knowledge, and they're terrified about a male-dominated environment. Perhaps you want to make that glass ceiling for them.
I come from an engineering background, never done little work or homework or home economics in my entire life. So, and the business that I run is infrastructure services. So basically, we're in a continent that is growing in terms of rolling out broadband and technology. And what my company does is to do installation and commissioning. For the bigger companies like your Motorola, your Huawei, all the big technology companies. So we have and we pride ourselves in getting, and then not quite being black people, because we've got a lot of smart engineers out there. So our company is black owned, and we've got a lot of black engineers. And also, while we work with rolling out technology, we also work with collecting the waste at the end. So we are in the full cycle of saying we supply, but give us the old one as well. So we're involved in electronic waste management, and that puts us in the beginning and in the end of things.
Just kind of break that electronic waste management bit, and just in 30 seconds, what is all this e-waste about?
So if you look at it, your old charger, your old cell phone, your old VCR, TV, 51 centimeter, needs to end up somewhere. And unfortunately, it can't end up on a landfill. It is against the laws of the country, and it is also hazardous. So you need a proper channel to be able to mine, one, the stuff that's inside there, and two, to be able to take the dangerous materials and dispose them properly. So we are certified to do that type of work. And therefore that lands us in a place where we train a lot of people, we run a factory, and we're involved in managing not only the environment, but also providing skills and work opportunities for the current generation.
Fantastic. Thank you. Solange, as you're wrapping up, Yeah. Thank you, first of all, for coming to the Lenin studio. Just tell me about all these projects. You always do.
I know.
Talk to me about it.
Okay, so basically I am in entertainment.
Okay.
I wanted to start with marketing, by the way. I started marketing thinking, you know what, that is where I am great at.
Yeah.
But thank God I've managed to take what I've studied in school into what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Started as the presenting and then acting, and then I went into motivational speaking just because I realized that African women, I focus a lot on African women, young girls specifically, they have a very wrong idea of what entertainment is about. And we have a very lazy generation that just wants to be famous, but they don't want to do the hard work.
Yeah.
And I felt like there was a gap in the industry for strong African women who inspire.
Exactly. Tomorrow.
Exactly. So I still do a lot of acting and presenting, but I've come to a position, thank God, in my life where I can now start to open doors. I've been the first time golden to basically be able to penetrate the South African market when it comes to entertainment. The same goes for Mozambique, the same went for Nigeria and Ghana and a few other African countries.
Fantastic. That's great mileage, yeah?
Exactly. Thank you. So I feel like a lot of people feel that it is impossible, or they think that the way to do it is through other doors, which I absolutely don't believe in. So I feel like it is time to, number one, open doors for others, for the work to continue, because I really do believe that Africa needs to get together and unite, and once we understand each other as brothers and sisters, we can be a power couple.
Wow. Okay. Let me just interrupt you a little bit. Just in terms of right now, in 20 seconds, what are you doing?
I'm producing. Right now, I'm producing shows for DSTV that are shown all across Africa, and these shows are for Angola and Mozambique. I'm still doing my motivational speaking, and then next year I'll go back.
Okay, how can we get all of you to launch? Talk to us.
Email is the best way. Where's WEZA booking@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Weza_Solange, on Facebook also, Weza Solange, and
thank you very much for this African cocktail. I think Ernest has got a question for him coming all the way from Ohio. How can we get hold of you? If someone has going to be buying a lot of appliances, it's December, it's festive season, you have a whole lot of electronics.
How do we get hold of you? To know.
Yeah, talk to us.
So if you normally your starting point will be our website. So www.bolunga. Bolunga is BOLUNGA. That's your direct. And email address would be info at Bolunga. Again, it's BOLUNGA. And I am on Twitter and Facebook. Twitter is Ogda. And also on Facebook, it's Koga Samanda. And I'm also on Instagram. But if you're looking also, you'll find us, if you just get in contact with us at info, we will come to you or even give advice of what you need to do if you're a corporate having a lot of electronic waste.
So we're going to take out of it and so on. I think we're going to take one thing. Thank you very much for making the time to talk to Africa. It was fantastic having both of you in the studio. Can I take you that we're going to do this again one more time? Definitely. Yes, fine. And then over to you. You want to ask a question?
Yes, Solomon, just before we take leave of your guests, I just want to ask Solange and Simanla, you've spent 1 hour, 30 minutes with us. How would you assess African Cocktail? What was your experience being on this show for the very first time?
I think for me it was fun. I came from another interview when they asked me how was it, I said it was painless. Anyway, the way it becomes the same exerted or anxiety or pressure, then I shrink. But if it's easy, then I become more creative and more alive. So I think it was easy, it was painless, and there was a connection. It was easy to get into the conversation and switch between them as well.
Absolutely. Can I just copy you? I feel exactly the same way. This felt more like a conversation, but more than that. I learned also so much from everything that you have spoken, and it's wonderful changing ideas with like-minded human beings, and you always get something out of it. And remembering Madiba, which will forever be in our hearts. It just reminded me again, speaking about him, that there is still so much to achieve out there. So this was perfect.
Thank you. And Ernest, as we look forward to another African Cocktail edition next week, it is bye-bye from the Crown Plaza Hotel in Rosebank. Till next week.
And from the Crown Plaza Rosebank Hotel in Johannesburg, South Africa, Solomon Atah signs off. Solomon, thank you so much for joining me to host this very special episode of African Cocktail that came to you this day, December the 10th, 2014. At least we said bye-bye to Mandela in a special way last year. We came back this year to remember him. We still have a few more minutes and a few more items to go in this episode of African Cocktail. First, let's digest all of what has been said by Solange and Steve Mandela with some very beautiful music. And this time we are going the reggae way. Lucky Dube, House of Exile. Okay, we are gradually but steadily running to the end of this episode of African Cocktail. But I would like to take you back again to December 2013 when news got to us that Mandela was no more. And when we received Dr. Peter Karim Cisse in the studio, this is how he reacted so emotionally. Like I said, Peter Karim Cisse is an expert in South African politics and is a Mandela addict. So this is how he reacted when we got to him and asked how he felt that Mandela was no more. When it got to you that Mandela was no more, what was your immediate reaction?
First, I want to thank you very much, Ernest, for having me on this show again. I think this is a very important contribution to Mandela's fight and the fight that we are going to continue. My sympathy to all Africans for this big loss. Even though it had been expected for a while, it was a shock to learn that this great elephant, this legendary figure of my generation, had finally fallen. For me, it was truly a moment of reflection on the humongous contribution that this humble man from a very poor background had made to our collective humanity.
Right.
We are indeed at a great loss. For many generations to come, people will sing the praises of this great leader.
I can imagine the emotion with which Dr. Peter Karim Cisse is speaking. The last time I had him here on the show, he was so emotional about Africa, and when it concerns that continent, you know, he doesn't joke. But Doctor, this is something I realized when news about Mandela's death occurred. You know, I was watching TV. Instead of people shedding tears, you know, I rather saw South Africans singing and dancing, and my guess was that they were in a way celebrating a well-accomplished life. What appreciation can you make to that, and did you expect to see more tears flowing?
At Awolowo's funeral, one of the poet who was giving a speech that day said, "Death is a bitter tree that reaps unripe fruits." But in the case of Awo, the fruit was near ripe.
Right.
At 95, the fruit was near ripe. But it was the accomplishments, standing up against racism and oppression, and bringing black, white, colors, a rainbow coalition together in South Africa.
Right.
And going to jail for 27 years, becoming president of South Africa, first black president, and bringing more than almost 100 nations leaders to his funeral last few days. An attestation to the great work of this man. We should not cry, we should celebrate his life.
Okay, we should not cry, we should celebrate his life. The words of Peter Karim Cisse talking to African Cocktail on December the 11th, 2013, 1 year on. And so, just like Peter Karim Cisse and the guests we had in South Africa, other Africans have been commemorating Mandela's demise in their own ways. And in Cameroon, the situation is definitely not different. People are still talking Mandela and, of course, celebrating the life of this hero. That's probably what our reporter Ifana Kwalar will be telling us as she comes on board now. Ifana Kwalar, welcome from the banks of the River Vuri in Douala, Cameroon's economic capital.
Thank you, Ernest, and welcome to Douala. The weekend was a very interesting one for the fans of Grace Baker, who savored her new album, Muna. This is her first release after more than a year's break from music. And as it is not only the fans of Grace Baker that had a great week, but all Sawa people and lovers of culture in Cameroon. Sunday the 7th of December was the final day of the Ngondo Festival. Ngondo is an annual festival of the Sawa people where they celebrate the gods of the sea. Sawa people from in and out of the country came together to this great festival. This festival is also a great touristic attraction as tourists came from all over the world to see the display of the Sawa people. During this year's Ngondo Festival, Ngondo Dipita 2014, they had the Miss Ngondo Beauty Pageant, the canoe competition, and traditional displays. What marks every Ngondo festival is the offering made to the gods, where a woman is believed to go into the river with a basket of items meant for the gods. This woman is said to merge herself completely into the water with the basket that comes out completely dry. That is the African science of the Ngondo Festival. Stand-up comedy is beginning to gain ground in Cameroon with a coming comedian like MC Calvino, Ngwane Hansel, Mr. Bombastic, Zachary, and Oboy. In order to make this genre of entertainment stand out in Cameroon, Oboy, a Yaoundé-based comedian, is on Saturday the 13th of December 2014 organizing the Oboy Comedy Show. These comedy shows shall have a blend of music from musicians like Richard Kings and Mel Nova. He says it is also a time to meet our own Cameroonian stars on the red carpet. That is why people like Epule Jeffrey, Nene Jingla, and Solange Jika shall be there to grace the occasion. It is a year now since Nelson Mandela passed away. Though Mandela was old, his death was and is still a painful thing to many people. I went down street to Douala during the weekend to get the people's view on Mandela, and the people really had many things to say. Talking to Comfort Delta, a 29-year-old student, Mandela was a hero and role model. She says Mandela was the only man that she could marry even if he was 90 and she was just 10 years. She said Mandela gave Africa a voice and a face to be proud of. He taught people to overcome vice with virtue. She is still angry why a holiday was not declared in Cameroon on the day of Mandela's death, and she thinks Mandela should have a statue in Yaoundé in honor of this great man. Talking to Bisson Abo Elvis, he did not have the same views with Comfort. To Bisson, Mandela was an African hero, but he cannot say Mandela was his hero or his role model. He says everyone seems to be painting Mandela the perfect man, but that is not true. He says we should not forget that Mandela divorced a woman who had stood by him through thick and thin. No matter what we need with, Mandela was supposed to understand that she did that out of frustration, and she did that to make her husband proud. And Mandela was so fast in forgetting the better for worse clause. This song said divorce to Mandela seems not to be a very new thing. Of all, Mandela went ahead to marry the wife of his friend. In conclusion, he said, I doubt if Mandela was a Christian. I don't even know where his soul is. Then talking to Atah Kingsley, he said Mandela will remain the most celebrated African and the #1 man of all times. Mandela was an embodiment of hope, love, unity, and peace. While Obama is saying yes we can, Mandela already said yes we made it. Asking him if a monument should be erected in Cameroon, Kingsley said yes. He thinks Mandela deserves a monument, maybe so close to the Unity Palace, that before we put up a monument for Mandela in Cameroon, let us first of all learn to celebrate our own fallen heroes. And to me, Ernest, Mandela was an extraordinary man, and I will celebrate him all the days of my life. If it were possible, I would personally have a monument of Mandela right in my city. That is all I have from Douala.
Okay, Ifana Kwala's own views there on Mandela, and of course she also sampled those of other Cameroonians in the streets of Douala from where she has been reporting. Thanks so much, Ifana Kwala, for that brilliant report from the banks of the River Vuri. We hope to have you again next week. Okay, we shall soon be running off, but not until we listen to our resource person number 1, Kenneth Ngamne. But before Kenneth comes on, let's have a little bit of this one, then we'll be right back. Hey, another beautiful Mandela piece, this time coming from the Republic of Cameroon. His name is Sanfan Thomas, in that one titled Mandela. And of course, this piece was played long before Mandela was released from the gates of prison. And of course, it is this legend we are celebrating this day on African Cocktail. Number 78. Okay, we shall be running off just right ahead in this episode of African Cocktail. I'll be right back. Okay, the next speaker in this episode of African Cocktail is a born artist who fell in love with literature way back when he was still very young, and when he proceeded to the university, African studies was his option, and since then he's been living literature. Though he has progressed to become or to have a very critical mind as far as culture is concerned, Ken Shalim is also very artistic in nature. I've always told him that, and when you listen to him talk, you see art in the gentleman. So he sat down and thought about what he could do to Mandela this time around, and so this reflection popped up, and this is what Kenneth had for us in this episode of African Cocktail. He's not analyzing today, but then he's reflecting. Just stay put and listen to our resource person number 1 in another form today. Ken Shalimonet.
Ngamne Ken Shalimonet's tribute to Madiba Nelson Mandela. In the words of Yvonne Shaka Shaka, an amazing man a very special man. In the words of Ayikwe Ama, in one of his novels, The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born, alone, I have nothing. I have nothing. We have power, but we will never know it. We will never see it work unless we come together to make it work. Nelson Mandela Madiba, the great Iroko, a man of substance, a great hero, the most influential man in the world, the man who taught us reverence and perseverance, a very special and amazing human being, a man with a golden heart, sent specially by God and blessed with the powers of our forefathers to help transform the world and make it a better place, like Michael Jackson said, for you and I and the entire human race, not minding if you are black or white. There is no way he will ever be discussed in past tense, and he had proven to us beyond reasonable doubt that some of the beautiful ones have been born. 27 good years in prison, but still came out smiling. For 27 years we cried that the man who will make black people proud was going to die. But for those 27 years in jail, he was smiling, knowing that he was getting closer to achieve his purpose on earth. For 27 years after he was sent to jail, the apartheid regime knew that they have succeeded in crushing him and he would die there. But for those 27 years, he was preparing the speech he would deliver as the first black president in his own country, infiltrated by some cheap minority few who think they own the world. From birth, he was injected in abject poverty, racism, discrimination, and torture. But for those days, until December 5th, 2013, that he decided to rest, he held on, knowing that he will fulfill his mission on earth before he move on. So many times we ask ourselves, when will Jesus come, as the Lord said? But we fail to see that God already sent him in the form of Nelson Mandela, as he sent people like Bob Nestor Marley, Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba, Martin Luther King Jr., just to name a few. But the same white people did not want to see them achieve their dreams of liberating the blacks from their chains. But the Lord said, I take your strength and put them in Mandela so that he will continue where you stopped. And he did it like a man and became the most influential person in the world. Even unborn children will grow to know Mandela, as my 8-year-old son is proud of Barack Obama as the first black president in the United States of America. Ayikwe Ama once said, disgust with injustice may sharpen the desire for justice. This has no doubt been proven by this great man, Nelson Mandela, and it is time to go home because he accomplished his mission, and he is going home in grand style. Character, they say, maketh a man. A man's character is his fate. Who really is Nelson Mandela? If we have to answer this question, then we will never stop writing. Nelson Mandela, in a few words, is a man who, in the words of Bob Nestor Marley, got up and stood up, not for his right, but for our right. In everything we do, Mandela will always have the last laugh. After all, like the saying goes, he read the ben, read the low timo. He who laughs last, laughs best. In the words of the great Chinua Achebe, the white man is very clever. He came quietly and peaceably with his religion. We were amused at his foolishness and allowed him to stay. Now he has won our brothers, and our clans can no longer act like one. He has put a knife on the things that held us together, and we are falling apart. End of quote. In the words of Elechi Amadi in his novel The Concubine, the spirit of death was known to take away people's souls shortly after midnight. That was when Kwame died. End of quote. We can quote as many Africans as we can, but one thing is very certain: Mandela is not dead. Mandela did not die. He is still living. Living because even though his body is no longer in this world full of sins, hatred, discord, jealousy, anger, fear, we can still feel his spirit of love, togetherness, passion, compassion, humor, courage, bravery, and above all, unity. A man who never said, I did this or that, but we did this or that. A great leader, a great father, a great unifying figure, a man full of so much love. Nothing is more important than the fact that he went to rest, knowing that he did not only free South Africans, but taught the entire human race a great lesson. And it is left for us to learn from him. And above all, gave back the pride of the black man. There is no doubt today that he is and always will be among the most celebrated. If there is anything we have learned from you, it is your actions and how you perceive things. And you made us understand that earthly pleasure is all vanity. Vanity upon vanity. It is like chasing the wind. It is like running away from your shadow. What does it pay a man to gain the world and lose his soul? Farewell, Madiba. Rest in peace, Mandela. Sleep. Sleep. Sleep like a baby, Nelson. You did your job. And very well too. It is left for us to continue in your legacy. Lord of mercy and compassion, Father, we ask for mercy. Please let us not employ in vain. Today we denounce all our sins. Never shall we sin again. Peace unto your soul, Mandela. Peace unto your soul. May you rest in peace. Peace unto your soul.
Rest and rest like a baby. Peace unto your soul, Mandela. That was a beautiful and artistic one there from resource person number one, Ken Shally Monet, and emotion driven piece there. Want to laud his efforts for that beautiful contribution, an extraordinary one in this episode of African Cocktail. Okay. And that is how we put a full stop to the 78th episode of African Cocktail that came to you this day, December the 10th, 2014. It was a big and dynamic team that kept you company this day on African Cocktail. African Cocktail kitchen manager Susan A. Belgium correspondent, Titus Banyo, Germany correspondent, Marcel Ajik, Central African correspondent, Ifana Kuala, African Tele Review correspondent, Crystal Beauty of the Crystal Beauty Show, resource person number one, Kenneth Ngamne, resource person number two, Suleiman Koyate, resource person number three, Matthew Ayon, content critic, The White Bokery, production collaboration, Crystal Beauty, African Cocktail promo banner, Ajik Marcel, Bob Boateng. Main guests in this episode of the show, we had Weza Solange and Sifokazi Simanla. We also had Dr. Peter Karim Sisi of the Colombo State Community College, and of course Tabot Sebastian. Then collaboration, Big Gentle, Awal Mohammed, DJ Cash, Mayo Makinde, Seran Cake, coordination, Nana Ampem, and Davis Odeneho Apia. Solomon Atah from Johannesburg and Ernest Kanjo from Columbus, Ohio coordinated the show this day. Asking you to join us again next Wednesday for yet another vibrant episode of African Cocktail on African Radio. And until we meet next Wednesday, it is bye bye, ciao, au revoir, merci, I'm gone. See you then. To God be the glory. Long live Matiba. God bless you.